Hello and welcome. Uh, Today we are going to start the series on how to develop an Android application from scratch. The application that we are trying to develop is an e-commerce application which is fully complete with search and cart and quick order and all such functionalities. Today is the first session in which we are going to just start by creating a very basic hello world application, and then obviously step by step we are going to go ahead and enrich it with other features. Now to start off, I'm assuming that you have already installed the ADT and you have opened it. So to create a new application, you go to new and go to Android application project. It is going to ask you about certain details. So the first thing that we need to enter is the application name. Let's just give it basket because it's an e-commerce application. The project name is automatically getting populated, which is basket as well. The third thing that we need to fill up is the package name. Now package name is nothing but the unique identifier with which your application is going to be identified. Now here typically the norm is that if you can see here, it's com.example. It is the reverse of the domain. So if your domain of your company or your organization is say zing.com, then you can mention it as com.zing. And the third part is basically to identify the application, which is this particular application. So as an organization, you can have multiple applications. So this application is to be identified by basket. Now there is no limit on the number of words that you can add. You can even add another one, which is version 1. But the norm typically is that you restrict it to 3 words. Now the next thing that we need to understand is these 3-4 terms. One is the minimum required SDK, the second is the target SDK, and the third is the compile with. Now what is a minimum SDK? Now as you understand that Android releases newer versions of the Android operating system. So the minimum SDK is where you define what is the minimum Android version with whom your application that you are developing right now will be compatible with. Now in this particular choice, if you look at it, by default it is coming that it is compatible with Froyo. That is the minimum version that it is compatible with. Now to decide this, the best thing to do is to go into the Android website and find out. You can go to developer.android.com and about and dashboard, and here Android publishes that how many of the devices currently are running in on which version of the Android. So if you look at it from this data, which is as of 3rd November 2014, only 10.4% of the devices are running on Android 4.0 downwards. So now it is up to you to decide what is the minimum compatibility that you want to keep in your particular application. It again depends on the target segment of your of the customers for whom you are building this app. If you feel that they are premium customers, net savvy, then you can assume that they would already have migrated to an ice cream sandwich at least. In which case you can decide not to build compatibility with gingerbread and Froyo. Now, what we need to understand is that if you build the backward compatibility with these older versions of Android, what you lose out is certain newer features which got added with each version of Android. So some things which got introduced in ice cream sandwich might not work in Froyo, in which case you will have to do a special handling that, okay, if it is less than ice cream sandwich that the user is using, how your application has to behave. If it is more than ice cream sandwich, how it will behave. So if you don't want to get into all that, so I would seriously recommend that you start with Android 4.0, and because you are not losing out on too much of the percentage of people using those applications. Now coming back to Eclipse, here I am going ahead and selecting Android 4.0. Now the next thing is the target SDK. Now the target SDK is basically the latest SDK that you have tested your application to be compatible with. So in this particular case, I have tested, or we are going to test this application with Jelly Bean, which means that up till jelly bean, you can be confirmed that this application is working fine. If the later versions are available, you can even select KitKat or even Lollipop. Now, compile with is the version which is the version of the Android API which will be used to compile this particular application. So this is the actual version with which you are going to compile your application. Now the last thing is basically the theme. What kind of theme that you want for your application? There are different themes which are available. You can go ahead and select none. In which case you will have to define each and every element of the look and feel. The other could be a dark or a light or hollow light with dark action bar. So I'm going to go ahead with hollow light and dark action bar. Now click on next. Now here it is going to ask for certain parameters that you need to set, that you need to configure for the project. First is whether you want to create a custom launcher icon. I'm going to say yes. Create a default activity. I'm going to say yes. And where this project is going to be saved, I'm going to go ahead with the default options, and I'm going with next. Now here, what the Android application is asking me to do is basically to design the logo for my or the icon for my application, which will appear on the screen of the devices. So for the time being, I'm just going to go and select any one of these applications, any one of these icons, and I'm just for the heck of it. Yeah, and I'm just going ahead with this. This is just a temporary icon that I'm creating. The next thing that I'm going to do is create a blank activity, because we will obviously be putting content on this activity, and then going ahead into the defining the what is the first activity or the activity with which the application will open. Let me rename this to start screen. As you can see, the layout is XML file which will get created. It is getting defined as activity underscore start underscore screen. And I am not going to keep a navigation type because we're going to define it later on. Now, once I do this, what this SDK is going to do is basically create the required files to have a basic application running. So now if I click on finish, we can see that a new folder has got created here. And I hope that you are familiar with the different folders, but anyway, I'll take you through them as well. So all the Java files or the controller files are going to be placed in this src folder. As you can see, this com.zing.basket is how we have defined the package name, and it is there. It is there in the src folder. Now, apart from this, the other folder that we need to refer to very frequently is the res folder, where you will find that these are the drawable folders where you have to place all the different logos or pictures or photographs that you want to embed in your application. Now, if you go here, you will see that the launcher icon that we have created has got added here. Now, the HDPI, LDPI, MDPI, XHDPI, and XXHDPI are the different resolution of the photographs. Now, the Android application will pick up the right resolution based on the size of the screen. Now, the next folder that we need to look at is the layout folder. Now, this is the folder where we are going to define all the XML files which are specific to that, but to every activity. Now, every activity will have to have at least one XML file. Now, there are certain widgets where we need to create multiple XML files as well. We are going to explore that as we go ahead. Now, as you can see, by default, one layout has got created, and this is what it is. And if you can have a look at the code, it's a relative layout, and we have by default a text view with the content of hello world. Now this is what, if you can have a look at this, you can see that this is what is getting displayed. So a template or a layout has been created for the activity. The code for the activity is start screen.java. Now this is what will basically link to the activity underscore start underscore screen and display the content. Now, if you look at the code, it's a very basic code right now. We have the imports which are all linked here, and then we have this the class which is the start screen, and then on create, what we are doing here is we are mapping this particular activity with the layout activity underscore start underscore screen. Now the now you might be wondering what this r dot layout is. Now how it behaves is that the moment you create an activity or you create an XML file in the layout folder, there is an object class called R where the map for this particular XML file gets created. So it is like this, that inside this folder, if you have to access anything, you have to put it as R dot, then the folder name is layout, which is here, and then you have to put the name of this file, which is activity underscore screen underscore, sorry, activity underscore start underscore screen. And this is how the mapping happens with the between the XML file and the particular activity code or the Java file. Now, this is a very basic action, which means that it is just going to right now just linking the activity with the XML file and rendering it on the screen. Now, what you see here is a piece of code which is basically to create a menu. Now, just don't think about it right now. We are going to discuss this later on. Even if you remove this, it's not going to hamper any working of this particular application. We need to also have a look at this file, which is the Android manifest file. Now, this is also one of the very important files which we need to have a look at. So let me just open this file in the editor. Now, yeah, let's go through this file. So this is the manifest file which has all the configuration information with respect to this particular application. So for example, let's start with the package. As we have already discussed, this is the com.zing.basket, which we have mentioned earlier. Now then you will see two things, which is the version code and the version name. Now version code is it has to be an integer, and it defines the different versions of this particular application. Now obviously we are going to start with one. Now as and when we are going to add more features, when we start putting this application on Google Play, then every new iteration on Google Play has to increase the version code by one. That is when Google Play will accept the newer version. If you keep the same version, then it will not get updated. So version code is something which is used as a version control mechanism by Google Play, and it has to be an integer. Now version name is something which is very different. This is only for the reference from a user's point of view. So typically what applications do is that you have a number like 1.0, where 1 signifies the major release and 0 signifies the minor release. So even if the version code can be 10 or 12, the version name can be 1.5 or 1.6, because that is because if it is an incremental change or a bug fix, even if the version code is going to go one up, you may not want to tell the users that it is actually a newer feature rich version. It is actually a bug fix. So from 1.0 to you will actually move to 2.0 when it is an incrementally improved version of the application. Now, as we see here, as we have defined earlier also, you can see that the minimum SDK version which it is compatible with is 14, and the target SDK version is 18. Now, next comes some of the definitions which we are going to understand now. If you look at it, here we have a section called application. Now, inside this, we actually define the different activities and how each of these are working. So basically, if you look at it, first of all, it is mapping the icon of this application to @drawable slash IC launcher. Now it is nothing but this folder, the drawable folder, and inside that it will basically pick up this IC underscore launcher file. The label of this application is app name, which we have defined. Again, if you look at it, there is a folder called values, and inside values you will find a file called strings.xml, and here we have actually defined the different what is the corresponding text for each of these string names. So app name is nothing but basket, and so this is what is going to pick up from here. So the label will be basket, and the theme is the app theme, which is basically the hollow with dark action bar. Now the first activity which is there right now, we only have one activity in this application. So it is the name is com.zing.basket.start screen, because that is the name of the if you go to the source folder, that is the name of the Java class. Even inside here also, if you see, the Java class name is start screen. So that is what has been defined here. So basically the application will go and pick this particular activity. The label is obviously the app name, and then the intent filter is where we define that which activity will get opened first. So for example, here we are defining it as android.intent.action.main, and and the Android name category is that Android intent category launcher, which means that this is the first activity which will get which will open up when the user clicks on the application icon. So these two lines actually define which is the first activity which will get called when the user clicks on the icon. Now, once that we have understood this, let us now go ahead and execute this application. So you can come here and you can click on this basket and it will run it. Alternatively, what you can do is you can right click on here on this on the project basket, go to run as, and then run it as an Android application. So I'm going to go ahead and use this, and let me see how it behaves. So I'm going to now open my screen. So I'm using an emulator to show you my screen, and if you look at it, this is the application which has opened up. Okay, so I'm going to exit this so that I can show it to you from. So I'm going to go to basket. This is the icon on the top row, third on the from the left, and I'm going to click on this. And what happens is, if you can see, that this application opens up. It is very simple. We have created one activity and one XML file to define the layout, and this is how it comes out. And you notice that there was a piece of the code about the menu option, which I said we'll explain to you later. Now, just to give you a glimpse of what it is, if you click on the three vertical dots, you will see that there is a pop-up menu which opens up with the settings written on it. So the menu is nothing but this one, which will open up, and we are going to define later on. Please subscribe to this channel if you want to see the rest of the videos on how we are going to develop the entire e-commerce application from scratch. Alternatively, you can go to my blog semicolon.blogspot.in to get the sample source code as well, step by step of how as we go ahead with the development. If you like this session, please do not forget to press the like button and do subscribe to this channel. Thank you.